creative and finding ways to retain that, to build on it, to recognize the alumni connection with the institution, but also to help students and graduates find a way to communicate their connection to the institution and the way in which that brand strengthens their diploma and their credentials.
So the question being, what's in a name? And the answer being perhaps a $10,000 difference in my salary. Dr. Papp, I guess that would be something that you...
Again, Southern Poly, the institution that is today Southern Poly is 65 years old. It has a very proud history. And as Lisa said, she and I have talked about the possibility of a couple of ideas, I guess is the best way to say it at the present time, how that tradition, how that identity can be preserved.
This is something that has been going on for some time. The students feel a little taken aback by perhaps the swiftness of the announcement. What is the timetable now? Can you address the issue of students sort of like being surprised by this?
First, regarding the timetable, Lisa and I will be appointing an implementation committee sometime over the course of the next 2 weeks or so. That implementation committee will then begin meeting. There will be other purely operational committees formed by the implementation committee over the course of the next 8 or 9 months or so. All of the various committees that are formed working through the implementation committee will put together a portfolio of programs, a portfolio of solutions to all of the many issues that must be resolved as we consolidate Southern Poly and Kennesaw State. That will have to be at the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, SACS, by October 1st. SACS will then take, October 1st, 2014, SACS will then take 3 or 4 months or so, and by its December 2014 meeting will make a recommendation as to moving forward with the consolidation. Assuming that SACS has moved forward in December of 14, then in January of 15, the Board of Regents will approve the final consolidation of the two institutions. Because January 2015 is both in the middle of an academic year and in the middle of a fiscal year, we will still operate as more or less two institutions in the process of consolidating until final unity is achieved, beginning with fall semester 2015.
Is the SACS approval, the SACS sounds like that's a stop point where people will make a decision and then decide to move forward. Is that a foregone conclusion by any means?
It is not a foregone conclusion. Here I would point out, though, that the university system of Georgia, over the course of the last 2 or 3 years, has in fact consolidated 8 institutions into 4 institutions. And also just before that, the technical college system of Georgia consolidated a significant number of institutions into fewer institutions. All of those consolidations, as a result of some extremely hard work carried out by a large number of people, were in fact successful. So we do expect success in this effort.
Dr. Rossbacher, how do you plan to contribute to the university once the merger is finished, everything is in place January 2015? I know some of the students are concerned that you won't be around anymore. Do you still plan to contribute to the university after the merger is complete?
My commitment right now is to stay and help make this consolidation as successful as possible. If another opportunity comes up, I will explore that. And so I can't really say how this will all work out. But what is clear is that when the consolidation is complete and there's one institution, Dan will be the president of it.
In an airline merger, complementary routes are often exactly what the government looks for. Regulators want to see complementary routes, not duplicated routes. Mm-hmm. However, what you have between Southern Poly and Kennesaw State seems to be a lot more complementary than it would be between Georgia Tech and SPSU. Why does this make more sense than a merger between SPSU and Tech?
I think part of the answer to that is the proximity between the two campuses, that we are both in Cobb County, and we in fact work together on a number of issues already. There's a strong entity called the Cobb Education Consortium that brings together all the entities in public higher education in Cobb County that Kennesaw State and Southern Polytechnic have been working together on for many years. So I think proximity is a key to it.
That is absolutely one of the critical factors. Complementarity is, again, a factor. If you look at the degree programs that Southern Poly offers and the degree programs that Kennesaw State offers, very few of them are duplicative. So in fact, they fit together, not as duplications, but rather as complementary programs. Then additional to that, both Southern Poly and Kennesaw State are very similar institutions in the structure of the university system of Georgia. Georgia Tech, for example, is what used to be called under Carnegie a Research One institution, whereas both Southern Poly and Kennesaw State are state universities. So that's that form of similarity as well.
Let me press that point for just one other question, and that is, if you're looking for cost savings and a formula that involves both KSU and SPSU, and you're talking about complementary services, again, where is the savings going to actually occur?
Savings will occur from 3 or 4 different areas. One, out of administrative overhead, secondly, out of back office operations, and third, out of a host of other areas like purchasing, et cetera, et cetera. So those are where some of the savings, and savings is probably the wrong word. Probably the right word here is funds to be redirected towards instruction, funds to be redirected towards educational support, and funds to be redirected towards research.
What is the assurance of that, given the fact that the legislature, when it finds a pot of money, typically does whatever it wants with it? Where does that assurance come from, and how ironclad is that?
This assurance comes from the fact that the Board of Regents is the one who is providing the funds to both Southern Poly and Kennesaw State, and to the other 29 institutions as well. Obviously, if the legislature decides to reduce the overall funding to the Board of Regents, the Board of Regents is the one that then makes decisions about how state funds are distributed to the various institutions.
So that assurance is based on current funding levels?
That is correct.
And from my perspective, the reassurance that we have that the cost savings will be redirected into instruction and student support services comes from the fact that the chancellor looked both of us in the eye and said that.
I'm a little bit late to the party here. Forgive me for asking a question that you probably already addressed, but what is the rationale behind merging the two universities?
The rationale, several rationales. First, as Lisa commented, the distance, very close between Kennesaw State and Southern Poly. Secondly, by reducing administrative overhead, back office costs, and other duplicative functions between the institutions, there will be a significant amount of funds that can then be devoted to instruction, to research, and instructional support.
Are there any kind of a shutdown of this campus as part of that consolidation effort?
Absolutely not.
Dr. you know, this hit kids out here like a ton of bricks. It happened very suddenly on Friday. We heard over and over from a lot of them how we think a Southern Poly degree means something. They're not necessarily putting down KSU, but they're proud of what this university has represented over the years. How would you assuage their concern?
They should absolutely be proud of what this university has represented over the years. I'm one of the former presidents at Southern Polytechnic State University. I fully understand the value of a Southern Poly degree. I fully understand the value of the electrical engineering, the civil engineering, the mechanical engineering technology degrees that the students get here. Again, programs are what employers are looking for, as well as the identity. Lisa and I have a couple of ideas that we are talking with some people about how to maintain the identity even as the merger moves forward.
Will the KSU name devalue the Polytech degree?
I don't believe so.
Why January 2015 instead of August 2015? Why in the middle of the school year?
Because according to the rules and regulations of the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, once the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools makes a decision, the governing body, the Board of Regents, has 30 days to move forward. Since the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools meets, actually they meet twice a year, They meet in December, but it's only in December where these kinds of decisions are made, pretty much locked into January.
All right. As a student here at SPSU, I know a lot of the students, faculty, and staff, alumni feel as if they invested a lot of time into the school or whatnot. And I'm probably a lot more moderate than my fellow colleagues here at the school about the merger. I feel like if we merge, there may be some difficulties, but overall we'd be one of the more premier schools in the entire state of Georgia. But it was still appalling to see on the Board of Regents website that Kennesaw State and SPSU emerged to form a new institution of Kennesaw State University. And it kind of feels like a lot of, we know our hard work hasn't went to waste, of course, but I just want to know your personal opinions of that. Like how much do you actually believe in driving forward and really incorporating Southern Poly? Because as far as just reading that, it just seemed like we were being taken over, and now, wow, we're gonna advance KSU.
I understand the concern, I understand the sentiment, the emotions, and the passion. From my perspective, this is a merger, a consolidation that will wind up further enhancing Southern Poly degrees, even as it will further enhance Kennesaw State degrees. From my perspective, again, I think everybody wins.
Dr. Rossbacher, would you care to share what your emotions were when you found out what this was 10 days ago?
I know that conversations have been going on among the Board of Regents for several years about consolidation, and in the first round that happened a couple years ago when 8 institutions were consolidated into 4, I know that Southern Polytechnic and Kennesaw were discussed at that time. And so I was sorry to hear the news, but I wasn't